Ever since England were knocked out of the World Cup by Croatia, a debate has rumbled on. In Luka Modric's post-match interview, he stated that he felt Croatia weren't given respect by the English media and the English public, and that was fuel to the fire for their performance in defeating England in the semi-final. Even after England's duties in Russia were finished once and for all with their third-place playoff defeat to Belgium, those remarks still sting. Gary Lineker on Twitter: Dear non-English football fans, football's coming home is a fun song highlighting the lack of success of our football team for decades. No one really thought we'd win it. I totally get why you might think it was arrogance, but it's more our self-deprecatory sense of humor. Obviously, we'll ignore that. Gary Lineker doesn't know what Three Lions is called, in spite of it being #1 in the charts. Meanwhile, Guillem Balog, Britain's most popular rent-a-Spaniard, chimed in with this: read interviews, spoke with Croat players. You might say it was all a joke, it felt less of one after. Maybe something to consider. His replies were a bit of a sewer. TalkSport: Modric could have done a little bit of research and realized most English media have been hailing him as player of the tournament and wowing about the Croatia midfield. But that doesn't fit the hate English agenda, I suppose. Jeff Shreves: Guillem, this is all becoming a bit tired. Whose is the accepted judgment of the difference between belief and arrogance? Show me the articles that disrespected Croatia. And do you accept the possibility of twisting a narrative to self-motivate? Gary Neville: what was in their minds in the first half when not playing well? Did Croatian manager switch his phone on at halftime and show them some memes of coming home? It's a complete nonsense to think that a footballer is really thinking about uncontrollable elements during a game. Henry Winter: Croatia praised extensively in English media before, after game. Croatia won't have to put up with football's coming home when England visit in October. As much to English fans' frustration, the NLT is behind closed doors following the offensive behavior of some Croatian fans. Balog is, of course, 100% right, but that doesn't fit the agenda of the English commentators replying, who all appear to have taken the opinion that it's only England that's allowed to weaponize nationalism. Being the person who was writing about exactly what the Croatian papers were saying on Twitter, the fact is that the preamble from the English media and public was taken as insulting. Specific mention was given to David Beckham's Instagram "It's Coming Home" video, which wasn't a meme, it was England's most recognizable ex-footballer supping a glass of wine and saying, "It's coming home." In fact, as Balog says, from the Colombia game onwards, the jingoism, be it real or self-deprecating, was wound up to the extreme. Wednesday's front pages included, "England expects," and "to boldly go where only 11 Englishmen have gone before," and 90 minutes from the final against France. Even before the Colombia game, the talk of the easy side of the draw was endemic. Were Croatia given respect? Of course. Was it on paragraph 6, line 44 below all the rabble-rousing? Obviously. And, let's be entirely honest, the Croatian media and the Croatian players seeing all of this aren't going to attune themselves with Jonathan Wilson dissecting the game tactically and strategically. They're going to be aware of what makes the biggest noise, and that was thousands upon thousands of people singing, "It's coming home." Croatians took that as a serious statement and will, no matter how much a Gary Lineker may moan that it's just self-deprecating, and the reason that is because humor rarely translates. Up until a couple of weeks ago, I was unaware it was self-deprecating. In fact, according to David Baddiel, it's not self-deprecating, and he, more than anyone, should know, it's about still believing in England, even when history and everyone is telling you they will fail. When England start to do well, can sound more like an assertion than a wish. But either way, one can't control others' perceptions. Obviously, that's far too sensible for some people to understand. To some it's a joke, to some it's a wish, to some it's an assertion, and, if one doesn't have English as their first language, of course it's an assertion. Three Lions isn't in and of itself an expression of arrogance or jingoistic national pride. It's far too melancholic for that. The verses specifically go through English failures and are about convincing oneself to believe in the improbable. but going around just shouting or just having clips of "it's coming home" don't exactly provide for nuance. Baddiel's refrain in the original of "so many jokes, so many sneers, but all those oh so nears wear you down through the years" is about as far from arrogant as one could get, but that's not the bit of the song anyone sings. Did it fuel Croatia? Yes. It was pretty obvious that the alleged English arrogance rubbed everyone up the wrong way before the match. To anyone paying attention, the news on the day of the match compared the game to Ivanisevic vs Henman at Wimbledon in 2001. Igor Stimac described England as having been overwhelmed by arrogance, and Viserenji said Croatia would lower England's imperialist flag. Whatever your thoughts on England and the passion of their fans, that the Croatian press weaponized English nationalism is undeniable, and that's the only story that got through to the Croatian camp is borne out by their pre-match comments, their post-match comments, and, arguably, by their performance during the match. Were England really arrogant? If anything, the only person to whom that question should be asked is Gareth Southgate, if all the fuss being made on these shores affected his players. You wouldn't expect it to have, and, given that Southgate was utterly outthought by Dalek, even if players had felt a tinge of complacency, it's hardly the only, or even the main, reason Croatia won that game. If anything, perhaps much of the truth of it is how much English figures have protested about it not being a factor for Croatia that proves that it was. Whatever, the fact remains is that, courtesy of the Vatreni, it definitely didn't come home.